my background is not normal. I started life as a lawyer. The very best people that you will have to sell your product are not the ones that you employ. But in truth, marketing is actually very boring. It's much more like law. It is a set methodology. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. It was enormous. 15,000 surgeons in one place.
Hello, welcome Jojo's Cross Borders. Today we have Michael Colin Tuck, the founder of an agency in medical marketing. So he's going to bring the solid advice for founders who want to explore the Asian markets for their medical products. Michael, thank you so much for coming today with your beautiful dog.
Thanks for having me.
All right, can you quickly introduce to our audience who you are, please?
So I'm Michael Colin Tuck. I'm the agency lead at Agency Medical Marketing. We specialise in healthcare demand generation, and we put the spotlight on innovations that advance healthcare. And we do that for medical technology companies, for pharmaceutical companies, and our aim is to ensure that the healthcare professional and patient audience are aware of innovations which might advance their world and take them to better places.
Wow, can I give you two key words then from all the introduction you have? So you are a marketing expert in the healthcare industry, is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, so good. I have a good comprehension ability then for my second language. All right, so what do you know about marketing cross-borderly then? What's your experience?
So my background is not normal. I started life as a lawyer and then fell
Did
into
you?
It was a very different experience. As a child, I always wanted to do law, and I wasn't really sure why. And I did a law degree and didn't find it as exciting as I probably thought I might. And then I wanted to be a doctor, so I went to earn some money to fund that. And then I ended up in medical sales, and that was nearly 20 years ago now. And I worked in medical sales through some of my 20s, moved into product management, moved into marketing, moved into international business management, and worked all around the world. And the stat I used to say was I did 45 cities across 5 continents in 1 year.
Wow.
So I think 260 nights away from home. So I was very privileged to take all those learnings that I had from the UK market and working on Harley Street and share those all around the world. It's a wonderful job.
Wow, okay. What experience? Definitely is more fun than just a lawyer, right?
It was definitely more fun than being a lawyer. Though my friends will tell me now that maybe their jobs are easier than mine in running a business. But I loved it.
You enjoy that?
I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I love what I do now, but it's very different to international business travel, where I've been meeting people and seeing new cultures every day. But then after a trip to China, I started to forge a different path in my mind. I'd seen enormous territories, and I'd had products in my bag which were incredible and life-changing. I'd watched them be life-changing for both healthcare professionals and patients. And
Can
then,
you give us an example? What's the products you see in China?
So I was selling at the time a range of joint replacements, and these
joint replacement. Okay.
So these were used by some of the world's leading healthcare experts. And I spent a lot of time on Harley Street working with the Queen's surgeon and working with some of the greatest minds that I have come across in healthcare and still have come across in healthcare. But I was one person going around the world training sales teams who were a few people to sell products. And one of the teams that we trained were a company called AK Medical over in China, and they had quite a substantial sales force of about 300 people. And then they took me to the Chinese Orthopedic Association meeting, and it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. It was
What?
It was
What's the difference?
It was enormous. 15,000 surgeons in one place. There'd be exhibition stands with fantastic branding, amazing thought out concepts to interest people, and then there would be lectures to sometimes 200 healthcare professionals on the stand. This was nothing
in
like
the lecture
anywhere.
hall.
No, just on the stand within the lecture hall,
For
and then
200 people
maybe
around.
300 lecture stands in this hall,
Yeah.
and several of them with 200 or 300 surgeons receiving lectures from other professionals in their discipline. And I felt that was eye-opening, because the conferences that I'd been to, sometimes even at major meetings, were a few sales representatives with a tablecloth and some samples laid out. And I thought, look, you know what? This is what healthcare sales and marketing should look like. This is an environment where peers are teaching peers about the results of a product. It's not a salesperson delivering that pitch. And fundamentally, the salespeople are always pivotal in the sales process, but the very best people that you will have to sell your product are not the ones that you employ. They'll be the ones that either put in your product or received your product. So healthcare professionals or patients. So hence why I have a marketing agency now which is dedicated at generating demand, and that really is amongst that healthcare professional and patient community. And our philosophy is that we use something called the 3 E's. So we try to equip the sales force with the tools that they need to demonstrate value. And then we try to evolve that sales process online, because you're not going to cross borders unless you've got a really good online presence these days.
Yeah.
And that's how you make sure your sales process is consistent as well. And lastly, the most important thing is we empower the healthcare professionals to advocate for you. And that really is when you start really progressing your demand generation.
Right. Okay. So you are getting the insights from your trip from China to see peers coaching, teaching peers how to use your medical products.
Yeah, so you think about the culmination. How does that happen? How do you end up with 300 people on a stand at a conference learning from an advocate peer who's a healthcare professional, so embracing your brand, so endorsed within your brand that they have come to stand next to it on a stand and advocate for you. What goes into that is a lot of work and a lot of clever thought as to how you advertise that opportunity, how you ensure that you tell all those 300 audience that something's going to be happening and it's worth coming to. Also about the branding and the activities that you have on that stand, because if they were contrary to what the professional's belief was, then they're probably not going to come. So we need to make sure that it's relevant to your audience. And then the relationship that you're building with those key opinion leaders, and by the way, it's not one key opinion leader speaking, they would have 9 or 10 that would come each day to speak. Fostering those relationships, making sure they're on message, making sure that they are the ambassador of your brands that you want them to be, is a wonderful harmony of communication, which starts with the sales team, is aligned with the marketing team. Maybe you have some management involved as well, but you've created a wonderful moment. And it was that moment at the Chinese Orthopedic Association that I started to think, you know what, there's a better way here, isn't there? And it's this. So how can we make this happen elsewhere?
Wow, okay. I'm so glad to hear that experience, from the traveling experience, your working experience with China, and then you get some valuable insight to help you to build up your marketing business here, and then to achieve basically you deliver a unique method of marketing to run the business here, right?
I don't know if it's unique what I do. I just know that it's the culmination of best practices that I've learned from different people, different sales forces, and we work a little bit outside of healthcare as well with retail. That's very deliberate, because as much as I'm 20 years of healthcare sales and marketing, it's all I've ever known apart from the beginnings in law, is that my team are multidisciplinary, so they do things outside. And I see this is really important because they bring best practices from other industries into healthcare and life sciences. And I think life sciences is slightly behind the times with its marketing. They're very much sales-led and sales-driven. And at the moment, there is a trend that's occurring in the UK and in other countries whereby investment in life sciences companies is at an all-time low. So, and that's because only 3% of healthcare technology that comes to market at the moment succeeds.
Oh, really?
So,
that's low.
Yeah, exactly.
So low, yeah.
Very low.
All right.
And what you have is this amazing mix going on at the moment where you have very, very intelligent and clever people with these wonderful ideas coming up with these product concepts or technology concepts or drug concepts. And they have this firm belief that their philosophy or innovation is going to change healthcare for the better. But sometimes they're very technically driven or clinically driven. They're not that commercially driven. And the truth is that if you bring a product to market, no matter how transformative it is and how wonderful it is, if you can't generate demand for it and nobody's using it, then it's not going to change healthcare.
True.
And I think the problem is that the industry needs a little bit more of an eye on the commercialization. I think what you'll see is the investors realize this, which is why you've got this very low investment rate. Because 3% is nothing. You think of all those thousands of innovations that come out and that are out there, and believe me, some of them probably could advance or are about to advance healthcare, could advance healthcare, but don't do that because they can't get the initial traction to have the hospitals, doctors bring it in. And there is a key reason behind this a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that would be really important for an audience to understand, is that transformative might be great in other industries, but it isn't always great in healthcare.
Why?
Because what healthcare wants is iteration.
Yeah.
Because it's safe. Transformative means a lot of change. It can mean a lot of risk. But actually, if we do something in healthcare where we take one thing out and put another thing in to a pathway, then we've probably made that pathway potentially a little bit better. If we have to scrap the whole pathway because the technology is so transformative, it invalidates everything, we have to do a lot of study into that, a lot of consideration into that, a lot of risk analysis into that. And we also need a lot of convincing that this is going to be a worthwhile activity and we're not going to end up doing more harm than good. So when you bring a technology to market, if it is that transformative, your sales process is probably going to be a lot longer than something where you say, well, actually, it's a bit better what we have now, which might result in this much improvement in results or in the benefits or a quicker procedure time, efficiency, cost savings. That's probably an easier sell than, do you know what, this is going to change everything. Which might be...
It makes sense because it's medical things. People,
of course,
it's a risk-free, right?
Exactly.
And then so that is that's then my question is, you know, like the AI, the use of the technologies right now, they all transformational is a key marketing, like a words, a slogan for everything.
Yeah.
So that means this one won't apply for medical products if you know, thinking seriously, right?
Absolutely, it's a really great question. So we use a lot of AI. We probably spend at the agency around £700 a month on maybe 15 different tools, which all utilize AI online, different SaaS platforms. So I'm a huge advocate of AI. Let's just walk to that word transformation. I think it's a very interesting word. As marketeers, we like the idea of transformation.
We like it. Yeah,
People like it, right? We all love the idea that it's going to transform the outcome for us, and that's why it's worth investing in.
Yes.
But the truth is, in life, most things that we embrace aren't that transformative because they carry risk, and generally we like to try before we buy something. We like to de-risk purchases by doing more research, by having more discussion about them. And everything has a value to someone, and to some people changing to an electric car for the price that it is may not be a big risk, but to others it could change their entire day, their business, the way they run their family. We have to consider that within life, I think that word transformative is questionable. And when I say I take on these AI tools aren't transformative to my business.
What is it then?
We have a set process and it has different phases. And marketing is not about transformation. Marketing is process, hard process. I know we have creative entities and creative minds in it. People look at branding, they think it's a fantastically exciting thing to create, and a design and all of this color and magic and people and amplification onto the television, onto buildings. But in truth, marketing is actually very boring. It's much more like law. It is a set methodology. We have set steps to put in place, and if we don't do those steps, you will end up with a result which doesn't resonate with your audience, which is the absolute key. So when I talk about AI and we talk about transformative, we have a set process, standard operating procedures. It's boring. I wish it didn't have to be this way, but it does. And what AI will do is potentially replace certain steps in that process with the human input. And it is magical at that. But we still have to check all the results very carefully.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because of the glimmer and because of the hallucinations that it creates sometimes. So yeah, it is in that way. Now look, when I talk about AI in business, let's imagine that in healthcare. Healthcare has set steps towards getting somebody from A to B. So they come in with a potential issue or problem. They need to be triaged. They need to be diagnosed. they need to have a prescription, and they need to be treated. And along that way, they'll potentially see different departments in the hospital, they'll see different people. What we're thinking about within that process is understanding about where we fit into it with our solution, our innovation, and what it's going to change, and how much impact it's going to have on the other people around it. Now, if we push too much change on those people, then you're going to have a lot of people pushing back on that change to say, hang on, I need consulting. And what's happening within healthcare is we have value assessment committees, which are made of more and more and more people, because the more disruptive the innovation, the more people it affects.
Yeah.
So that's changing healthcare globally, and probably for the better. I think, whereas the contrary situation beforehand was the clinician made a decision and maybe had a lot of the power and then disseminated that decision down to the people below. And if there wasn't too much pushback, it would happen. Nowadays, it's a multidisciplinary committee. So that's really why transformation might sound good, and it's great marketing terms, but actually, is it what people want in life and in life sciences?
Yeah. Is it better if we can say this one step at a time?
I agree. I think that's it. We always talk about that.
Yeah.
And in fact, in marketing, we have a saying, it's at the agency, it's not ta-da, it's here you are.
Yeah.
What was the logical next step in the process? I think a lot of people want the creative service to be, I can't wait to see what's coming. Now it's going to be fantastic. It's always a little bit of that. But in general, the process which we build things up in the brand section of the business, which is one section, should be that you have a next step which is iterative,
right?
Not transformative.
Not transformative.
Yeah. Good word though, isn't it? I like it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a trendy word.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. So another question I have is marketing. What is your experience when you're marketing, educating your customers cross-borderly? Let's take example like here in the UK and China. So it's the same products. What's the adaptations you have?
Yeah, good question. So in our world, everything is audience first. And I often say to clients that we have that our job is to champion your audience. And we try to do that objectively. It's often very hard to position yourself. I don't know why. In fact, even with my own agency, I don't let me do my marketing because I'm too close to the coalface. It's important to have objectivity in it. So our job is to champion that audience. And to champion the audience, we have to understand them. And the truth about global business is that audiences vary enormously from country to country and territory to territory. And that then means that your approach needs to adapt and shift slightly to be able to accommodate that audience's perceptions, their needs, and their wants as well. So this has to sit side and side by what a company is capable of as well. So if we change the pitch, so we have an audience, we have a pitch, in the simplest form of things. If we change our audience, we have to adapt the pitch slightly. But if we try to adapt the pitch too far to suit a certain market, it's a bit like having a piece of elastic. This is what the company's capable of, but this is what the audience wants. And we stretch it too far, the elastic snaps. And those needs and wants can vary greatly. So Europe and China sometimes want different things. China has a lot of competition, has very price-focused, price-sensitive market, has a large spectrum in terms of expensive and luxury price, but also lots of
local products.
And you have to think carefully about that market compared to, say, the US market, which has a need for expensive goods and that quality, more of a focus on that, same as Australia and same as Japan. So what do we say for a company that's going into all of those markets? How do we think about the positioning of it? We have to think very carefully, because going into China as luxury may work, but you may be only going for a small share of the market.
Well, just before the, exactly like saying this, it's value what your company can offer, and then compared to the the marketing ranges, right? But from my research, there's three major medical health companies in China. Of course, like GE, and then Philips, and then Siemens Healthineers. So they are, but from the data I check, like the exports, the revenue from the China markets is from 15% of the total revenue, but it's dropped to 10 to 12 because the marketing changed. The local competitive, price-driven, also local products as well, and also politics as well. Let's say the GE markets, yeah. So that changes. I mean, what is your advice for the marketing team when you think about from 15% of your total global revenue drop to 10 to 12? So how to increase 1 more percent?
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay. So markets are always going to adapt. I think we have to understand this. If you are selling into a market which is not your home market, it's important to have intelligence that's coming from the ground and that's being fed back regularly. Every company that has a distribution partner or is direct will be entirely reliant on understanding from the ground what's going on and what's happening, and then they have to feed that back into their central intelligence system and understand how to utilize that information. So relationships are key. And in life sciences particularly, we tend to have a network of distribution partners. I think the companies that you've spoken about, if they're direct into China, then they may be slightly different to some of the ones that I've worked with who generally go through a local distribution partner who rebrand under a slightly different name. But either way, your people on the ground will be your greatest resource of market intelligence. So making sure that you've got a clear line into them is important. They'll have senior management above them and they'll have their perceptions, but actually when healthcare changes, it changes from the ground up, not generally from the top down. So in my experience.
Yeah, local teams.
Yeah, I think, let me just qualify that. In most healthcare markets, what we generally tend to find is that if you were to take the route that is advised into trying to get your products into the market, generally you might be waiting for a few years. So what most people potentially watching this podcast may know is that there are other routes, which is to go and get real world local evidence in several different places and use that as your business case towards why you should be
you
able
mean
to help
distribution
more.
channel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So once you have this information, then you've got a powerful pitch to keep giving out again and again and again.
Yeah.
When markets change, you need to make sure the evidence that you're collating locally speaks to the value that market wishes to receive from its suppliers. And if that value changes from being we want expensive luxury goods to actually an affordable price point because our investment within our healthcare budget has changed, then that's the real evidence you need to be collecting. And that's why it's important to have a varied customer base, a wide set of users in different types of healthcare setting. And how you set those up and how you receive information back from those is important. And post-market surveillance is key within life sciences, often looked at as a slightly boring topic. But in the modern world, you mentioned AI earlier, the ability to analyze mass data sets and create real world evidence, statistics and insights has never been greater. So once you can take that and you can then have your market intelligence coming back, you can work out what your data set can do to speak to that change in the market. And that's where I think life sciences is going to evolve in the future now, is it's going to have huge data sets, mass statistical analysis and confidence intervals in large cohorts that it's never had before. And China is a particularly important market for that because you have such a huge population and the healthcare is accelerating at such a rate in terms of its quality that it will end up being, I think, a supplier of brilliant data sets, which will be able to derive really quality and deep insight into. That was your question, hopefully?
Yeah. Perfect. Absolutely. So I think we're just going to leave the open questions for all our audience who are in the healthcare industry. When the data shows the majority of the company, the revenue is dropping in China. But at the same time, you think about the market demands is increases dramatically because the national age situation, because right now it's all the older people over 60s is increase a lot of a percentage.
Yeah.
So that means that the market demand is increasing higher, but the medical products, like at least the foreign one, is dropping. So there must be the business owners or the decision makers need to think about the way to meet your demands.
Yeah, so meeting the needs of older populations is tough.
Yeah.
You've got and we live in a country which has this problem right now.
Yeah.
In fact, in the UK market, my favourite statistic is that the number of knee replacements that are going on in the UK is set to double by 2030. So there's a significant demand on this, and actually we won't be able to meet that demand, is the point, because we don't have a healthcare system that's capable of doing so. So other ageing populations such as Japan have conquered this who deal with this in a different way to us, is by having medical products which are cost effective, and they've also increased their efficiency within their processes over there, because again, like us, they have only a set number of clinicians for a set number of people. China will come up against this problem shortly, and I think it's the moment you have a lot of homegrown manufacturers who are manufacturing at a much more effective price point for the market than what some of the foreign companies have. So there will always be a draw towards the efficiency savings and the scale of economy that you can from utilizing homegrown products. And as those companies have been manufacturing for more and more years, the quality of the products are increasing.
Yes, exactly.
I think, what do foreign companies do to match up with this? Well, again, it comes back to the data. I think within marketing, we used to say that 50% of marketing worked and 50% didn't. We just don't know which 50% of it is. But nowadays, we've got such a wide access to data. I think with life sciences, a lot of our history has been in this sales-led approach, and therefore the data that came back to us was often anecdotal. It was emotionally led. It was based upon local findings. And even in the UK, you'll see difference in geography as to what clinical practice is compared to others. And China is multiple times bigger than the UK. So those geographical and regional differences will be even greater over there. So the notion now is to how can we collect these data sets? How can we bring them together, and most importantly take the time to analyze them, because that's what most companies struggle with when they have the data in front of them. They struggle to have the time to derive insight from it and then make practical applications of that insight.
Yes.
AI is going to change this very quickly, and it's going to enable us to understand very quickly what is working and what isn't. And for the large companies, what they'll want to prove is that the additional cost of their implants, which is inevitable from your export costs and from your support costs compared to local, they'll want to prove that they have better for performing products, whether that be pharma, whether it be tech, whether it be SaaS-based platforms. And to do that, they'll need to utilize the data to do so.
Exactly, yeah. And the AI, as you say, AI gonna help to analyze the data, but still the experts gonna overlook the data that's AI provided.
Hey, look, listen, data is a very, very important stakeholder at the table. And I think most boardrooms would do very well to have data at a seat in the table. Because if you try to bring opinion to a data fight, you've got a tough argument. However, it is important that we have people with real world experience on the ground to look at those data sets and maybe think about the alternative narrative which could be being told as a result of that data. That's important, because without that we can end up off into places that the data takes us to but may not be the actual reality.
Exactly. So that's the expert part.
Correct. And that's why the experts will always have a place, and that's why AI should always be part of a process and not the whole process, right? It just brings a new element to the discussion.
Yeah, Michael, so I want you to give a practical advice for founders who are spending a lot of time and a lot of money on their products, and then they're about to go into markets in different countries.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk on a more tactical basis, right? Because
Please.
I hear a lot of people talking about what should be done, and strategic theory. So I meet a lot of founders, and I generally tend to meet them at a very difficult time in their journey. They tend to come to me when they've got sort of 9 to 6 to 3 months left on their runway of investment.
Oh no.
And that's a difficult time because it means they've made some decisions at the beginning which are probably not the right ones to get them to where they want to be. In general, they'll tend to have spent too much time perfecting the product, and sometimes perfection masquerades as procrastination.
Sure, perfect. Everything needs to be perfect.
Exactly, particularly in life sciences, right? Because it has to be perfect for the
to
clinical
feed the
environment.
regulations. Yeah.
They're also constantly fed information back from the market about small changes that you could make to make it perfect. So it's fueled by that. Often they've invested in clinical studies that are expensive, and that generally comes off the back of this conversation. What do you think, Mr. or Mrs. Clinician, about the product? I think I might use it if it had more evidence. Now, in often the language of a technical or clinical founder, that's okay, I'll need to go and get more evidence for it. But in the commercial mindset, that's sometimes, I didn't really like the offer, and I don't think it's quite right for me.
Oh, okay.
But I'll let you down gently by saying, if you have more evidence, I might use it, which may be true or may not be true.
Yeah.
So when partnering and when thinking about how you go to market and your commercialization strategy in general, it's best to start getting feedback and research from the market, from multiple stakeholders at an early point. Now, most people try to do this through a single agent, distribution partner, or in essence like a tour guide. They'll hire someone in the local territory who says that they know the market, and then they train them, and then they wait and see what comes back.
Representatives,
some form of representative. Usually an individual one, it could be a team. Sometimes it could be a seasoned professional within that market.
So you're saying that this is not helpful?
I think they can be helpful, but if your strategy for generating revenue is invested in that sole person, then that's a high risk. And you need to make sure that person is going to be able to deliver you revenue. And my experience is 9 times out of 10, that probably won't happen. They might introduce you to people that they know, but sometimes they won't be the right people to take your product forward. There are many, many healthcare professionals out there that people probably watching this will know have utilized lots of products a few times and then put it to one side, and will do because they're looking for the relationships with the companies. And sometimes the tour guides are very good at introducing you to those people. But what you're really looking for is long-term business. You're looking to set up a beachhead within that country. You're looking to work with a institution that you know will advocate for you, be a bastion for your brand within that country.
How to get there? I mean, they know that's the things they know, but how to get there?
So what's the best way?
What's the best way?
So here's your tactical way of doing it. You start a VIP campaign.
Oh.
So you do this from your own country. The great news now is digital channels are very well embraced by healthcare professionals. So you put together a VIP invitation to a set of targeted audience that you know are the right people for your product in their country. And people will ask, how do you know? Well, there's so many ways to research things now. There's LinkedIn, there's AI. You could get a tour guide who's works within that sector, because you'll find them on LinkedIn, and pay them to go and tell you who the leading players are within that market, who the early adopters are, as opposed to the late adopters, who the people to stay away from are. And then what you can do is start a campaign which you send out either in the post, on LinkedIn through direct message or email. You could create a mini website for it, and you send a VIP invitation which says, we know about your practice, we've researched you, we think you are a person that we would love to work with in this market, or at least hear back from about our product. So we're going to book a dinner in a city near you. We're going to invite these people and name them, and then it's going to be paid for by us as our market research project, and we'd like you to attend and give us feedback. Now, ideally, you'd send that invitation on all those channels. You'd make them feel special, you'd make them feel important. If you do need a tour guide and you need to put feet on the ground, the tour guide's job is to go and see all of those people, and the KPI is how many of them attend the meeting. And then you keep control over your marketing from your own country and your own brands. You're not giving it to someone else to disseminate. And of course, the risk of someone else is that they position your product wrongly. They sell your product wrongly. Nobody will sell the product in the same way that the founder will, with the passion, with the origin story, with the vision, with the mission that they're on. That is the right person to sell that product. And I think many people make the mistake of giving that pitch over to the local representative.
Wow, okay, this is so useful for founders at the early stage. So you do your VIP campaign yourself.
That is what new market entry should look like in the modern world.
Wow. All right, that's so brilliant. Thank you so much, Michael, for all your sharings and the experience, and then the answers for my questions as well.
Thanks for having me. It's been wonderful. Really enjoyed it.
Thank
and so
you.
is he as well.
Yes. Thank you.